In the world of Forrester Creations, joy rarely arrives without consequence. Celebration, especially when it comes too quickly, often carries the quiet echo of something unresolved beneath it. When Carter announces his engagement to Daphne, the reaction is immediate and overwhelmingly positive. The news spreads through the halls of the fashion house like a burst of unexpected sunlight, lifting spirits that have grown accustomed to conflict and uncertainty. For Carter, the engagement feels like proof that stability is finally within reach. That after years of loyalty to a company that often demanded sacrifice over fulfillment, he has found something that belongs solely to him. For Forrester Creations, Daphne represents a symbol of renewal, a fresh chapter that promises balance between ambition and personal happiness. Yet the speed of it all gives the moment a dreamlike quality. As though reality has not fully caught up to the announcement, Carter himself does not question it at first. He has spent so much of his life being careful, measured, and responsible that the idea of moving quickly feels liberating rather than reckless. Daphne's presence offers him warmth, admiration, and the intoxicating sense of being truly seen. She listens attentively when he speaks about his work, asks thoughtful questions, and expresses admiration for the complexity of the company he serves. Her interest feels flattering, even supportive, reinforcing his belief that love and professional purpose can finally coexist without conflict. Daphne, however, is far more observant than she allows herself to appear. From the beginning, she understands that Carter's greatest vulnerability is not his heart, but his integrity, his pride in his work, his loyalty to Forrester Creations, and his belief in transparency form the foundation of his identity. She does not rush him toward intimacy alone. She positions herself as a partner in his professional world, someone who wants to understand the pressures he carries and the responsibilities he shoulders. Her curiosity appears natural, even admirable, as she asks about projects, strategies, and internal challenges. She frames her questions as concern, as investment in his success, never as intrusion. Gradually, her attention shifts toward the less visible aspects of his work. She expresses fascination with how decisions are made behind closed doors, how confidential materials shape the future of the company long before designs ever reach the runway. She does not ask directly for access, but she lingers near it, creating moments where Carter volunteers information without realizing the significance of what he is sharing. Each disclosure feels harmless on its own, justified by trust, love, and the assumption that the woman he plans to marry would never misuse what she learns. It does not take long for others to notice that something about Daphne does not quite align with the image she presents. At first, the unease is subtle, manifesting as glances exchanged during meetings or casual remarks that trail off without conclusion. Members of the Logan and Forrester families begin to sense that Daphne's interest in the company extends beyond polite curiosity. She seems unusually attentive during conversations that involve legal strategy, mergers, or internal disputes. Her questions are precise, almost too precise, as though she already understands the terrain she is navigating. Daphne's true skill lies not in stealing information outright, but in creating friction where unity once existed. She listens carefully to grievances that have long been buried beneath professionalism, then reflects them back in ways that magnify resentment. A comment framed as empathy becomes a seed of doubt. A suggestion offered as concern becomes a wedge. Slowly, key members of Forrester Creations begin to feel misunderstood, undervalued, or quietly undermined, without being able to identify a single source of the tension. Daphne never positions herself as the cause. Instead, she presents herself as a confidant, someone who simply understands what others are too polite to say aloud. Carter remains largely unaware of the transformation unfolding around him. His trust in Daphne is reinforced daily by her affection and apparent devotion. Yet cracks begin to form in his certainty, not through dramatic revelations, but through inconsistency. He notices small contradictions in her stories, moments where her reactions do not match the information she claims to be hearing for the first time. He catches glimpses of a sharper, more calculating focus when she believes she is unobserved. These moments unsettle him, not because he suspects betrayal, but because they do not align with the woman he believes he knows. As his discomfort grows, it is mirrored elsewhere. One member of the family, deeply protective of the company and its legacy, begins to quietly investigate Daphne's background. The decision is not made lightly. Accusations without proof would fracture relationships beyond repair, and the family has endured enough internal warfare to recognize the cost of paranoia. Yet instinct, honed by years of navigating power struggles and betrayals, refuses to be ignored. Patterns emerge upon closer examination. Gaps in Daphne's history raise questions. Connections once dismissed as coincidence begin to form a troubling narrative. The tension reaches a breaking point when Daphne is nearly discovered copying confidential documents. The moment is brief but electric, charged with the kind of fear that strips away pretense. Though she narrowly escapes exposure, the incident leaves a ripple of suspicion in its wake. For Carter, this is the moment when doubt becomes impossible to dismiss. He begins replaying past conversations, reassessing moments he once considered signs of intimacy. What once felt like shared purpose now appears dangerously close to manipulation. The truth, when it finally surfaces, does so with devastating clarity. Daphne was never simply a woman in love. She was placed deliberately, recruited by a rival with intimate knowledge of Forrester Creations' vulnerabilities. Her engagement to Carter was not an impulsive act of passion, but a calculated move designed to bypass safeguards that no external threat could penetrate. The revelation shatters more than trust. It dismantles the illusion that love exists outside the reach of ambition and power. The scandal that follows sends shockwaves through the company. Confidential information has been compromised, internal divisions exacerbated, and reputations called into question. Carter becomes the unwilling face of the betrayal, forced to confront not only public scrutiny but his own sense of culpability. He did not intend harm, yet his vulnerability became a weapon. The shame he carries is not rooted in failure as a professional, but in the realization that his desire for happiness blinded him to risk. Forrester Creations survives, but not unscathed. Trust is harder to rebuild than infrastructure, and the damage extends beyond legal ramifications into the emotional fabric of the family. Relationships are strained, loyalties tested, and the cost of complacency laid bare. Daphne disappears from their lives as abruptly as she entered, leaving behind a void filled with unanswered questions and lingering doubt. In the aftermath, Carter is left standing amid the wreckage of what he believed was love. The engagement that once symbolized hope now represents a lesson etched painfully into his identity. He must reconcile the man he believed himself to be with the consequences of his choices, learning that even the purest intentions can be exploited when trust is offered without restraint. The story does not end with closure, but with awareness, the kind that reshapes a person forever. In this world, betrayal does not announce itself with violence or chaos. It arrives quietly, wrapped in affection, disguised as devotion. And when it is finally revealed, it leaves behind something far more enduring than scandal. The knowledge that love, when weaponized, becomes the most dangerous instrument of all. In the bold and the beautiful, deception rarely arrives as a single act of cruelty. It unfolds gradually, layered with justifications, silences, and misplaced faith, until the truth becomes something everyone senses yet no one dares to name. The episode, airing on Thursday, January 22, 2026, exists precisely in that uneasy space, where loyalty turns conditional, intuition clashes with denial, and love becomes indistinguishable from danger. Across Los Angeles, characters move forward believing they are protecting one another, even as their choices quietly sharpen the knives that will one day cut deepest. At the center of this unease stands Elektra, whose life has already been shaped by recent trauma, leaving her sensitive to shifts others might dismiss as harmless. The memory of Luna Nozawa still lingers like a shadow she cannot fully escape. A reminder that threats do not always announce themselves openly. That experience has sharpened her instincts, yet it has also burdened her with doubt about her own perceptions. She knows what it means to sense danger too late, but she also fears becoming someone who sees monsters everywhere, especially where friendship is concerned. This conflict defines her current state of mind as Dylan settles into a shared space that no longer feels entirely safe. Ivy's warning does not arrive as an accusation, but as a careful, almost reluctant expression of concern. She recognizes Elektra's generosity and does not question her desire to help someone in need. Yet Ivy also understands boundaries, and she senses that this particular arrangement asks too much of too many people. Dylan living with Will creates a situation that blurs lines that should remain clear. And Ivy worries not only about impropriety, but about emotional vulnerability disguised as normalcy. Her warning carries the weight of experience, the kind earned by watching good intentions spiral into irreversible consequences. Elektra hears Ivy's words and feels their truth resonate, even as she resists them. She does not want to be the person who doubts a friend simply because circumstances feel uncomfortable, nor does she want to become someone who polices her boyfriend's relationships out of fear rather than trust. She tells herself that anxiety is not evidence, that compassion should not be punished, and that suspicion without proof corrodes relationships from the inside. Yet her body betrays her resolve. Unease settles in her chest, persistent and unyielding, a quiet alarm she cannot fully silence. Determined to address the situation honestly, Elektra seeks out Will, believing that transparency might restore balance. She approaches him not with accusation, but with vulnerability, hoping that openness will bridge the widening gap between her instincts and his confidence. She needs him to take her concerns seriously, not as jealousy but as self-preservation. What she receives instead is reassurance that feels rehearsed, calm words that dismiss complexity in favor of simplicity. Will believes he is offering comfort, yet what Elektra hears is minimization. Will's certainty comes from his refusal to imagine betrayal where none has yet occurred. He sees Dylan as someone in need, not someone capable of disruption. His recounting of ordinary moments, of shared meals and uneventful evenings, is meant to prove the absence of threat. To him, normalcy is evidence of safety. To Elektra, it is precisely what frightens her most. Danger, she has learned, often hides behind familiarity, behind the belief that nothing has happened yet, so nothing will. As Will continues to brush aside her concerns, something shifts within Elektra. It is not anger, but isolation. The realization that the person she needs most to trust her intuition is unwilling to do so leaves her feeling exposed. Worse still is the implication that her fear stems from insecurity rather than perception. Being reduced to jealousy feels like a betrayal of her lived experience. Especially after everything she has endured. Her instincts grow sharper, not weaker, as she recognizes that she may be alone in her vigilance. Parallel to Elektra's quiet unraveling is a far more volatile deception, one that threatens to ignite long-standing fears across multiple families. Deacon and Taylor find themselves circling a truth they can no longer deny. Their connection, once rationalized as fleeting or forbidden, has deepened into something undeniable. They understand the danger of crossing that line, not only because of social consequence, but because of the person they will hurt most by doing so. Yet restraint has become a daily battle they are steadily losing. Their inability to stop thinking about one another is not framed as romance, but as inevitability, the kind born from emotional alignment rather than impulse. They know better. They know what this could cost. And yet knowing has never been enough to extinguish desire in this world. Each attempt at distance only magnifies longing, turning caution into torment. The very awareness of risk intensifies the pull, transforming fear into fuel. As those around them begin to sense the shift, a silent agreement forms: Sheila must not know. The decision to deceive her is framed as protection, a necessary cruelty to prevent a greater explosion. Finn, acutely aware of Sheila's volatility, goes out of his way to avoid her, not out of malice, but out of dread. He understands that truth delivered at the wrong moment can be catastrophic. And he believes distance might delay the inevitable. Yet avoidance has consequences of its own. Sheila, though underestimated by many, is not oblivious. She feels the absence, the changed energy, the evasive behavior that suggests something has moved beyond her control. While others fear her reaction, she seeks understanding, finding solace in Lee, the one person capable of grounding her when emotions threaten to overwhelm reason. Lee represents a fragile hope that Sheila might choose reflection over retaliation, restraint over rage. Still, the longer the truth remains hidden, the more devastating its eventual revelation will become. Secrecy compounds betrayal, transforming pain into humiliation. When Sheila finally learns what has been kept from her, it will not be the relationship itself that wounds her most, but the collective decision to exclude her from reality. In this world, being lied to is often worse than being left. What unites these storylines is not coincidence, but theme. Everywhere, characters believe they are managing risk through silence, through reassurance, through selective truth. Elektra believes vigilance will protect her. Will believes trust will preserve peace. Deacon and Taylor believe secrecy will prevent disaster. Finn believes avoidance will delay violence. Each belief rests on the hope that intention outweighs impact. History, however, suggests otherwise. As the episode approaches its end, no truth is fully revealed. Yet nothing remains untouched by tension. The air is thick with what has not been said, with glances that linger too long, with instincts dismissed and desires indulged. The deception of Sheila is not a single act, but a collective failure, and its cost will be shared by everyone involved. Elektra's intuition, though ignored, continues to sharpen, preparing her for a reckoning that feels inevitable. The bold and the beautiful thrives not on answers, but on the unbearable stretch before them, where every choice carries weight and every silence screams louder than words. As January 22 draws near, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Danger does not arrive when secrets are revealed, but when everyone agrees to keep them. And in that agreement, relationships fracture, identities shift, and consequences quietly prepare to strike.